shows are not necessarily those of WBNY, the United Students Government at Buffalo State, or Buffalo State itself. Due to the opinionated nature of these programs, listener discretion is highly advised. If you have any questions or comments about All Talk Monday, you can direct them to WBNY's All Talk Monday, 1300 Elmwood Avenue, Buffalo, New York, 14222. For more information, check out our website at wbny.buffalostate.edu, or you may give us a call at the station at 716-878-5104 and take part in all the various All Talk Monday shows.
Hey, listen, 91.3. No, blah, blah, blah. Buffalo's original alternative since intern. I can't. You do it.
91.3 FM WBNY, Buffalo's original alternative since 1982, brought to you by the Buffalo State Student Activity Fee.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Did you know Buffalo State had court?
Yeah, I did.
I did not.
Yeah.
What kind of court?
Like if you get a parking ticket and you want to appeal it, there's like a court.
They have the same thing too if there's like any sort of like violent act or anything, or like any sort of court. Like they have court here. Like it's student-led court.
Where is it though? What building?
This specific one, I had it during Vantage Point, so I had to run out. It was in Butler, the library, in like 210.
So they make a court in there?
Yeah, like I don't know if he's a real judge or something, but he comes in and he's got like everything, and then you go up there and he asks you what's going on, and like, well, this is what happened, and he's like, oh, okay, and then like he'll either like ask you a bunch of questions to try to like confuse you to see if you're lying, or
Oh wow.
Yeah.
He has like the whole robe and the whole.
No, not the whole robe. He's like
Oh.
dressed nice, but there was a lot of weird things people were saying.
Wow. Now is that for like on campus
Yeah.
activities or through the whole school?
The things that, like if you park in a place that's not, you're not supposed to park like in staff, or if you're a student and you're parking in somewhere but you didn't pay for anything, then you would go to court. You would either pay the fine or you would go to court if you wanted to appeal it.
Wow, I didn't know that. I learned something new every day about the school.
I know. Okay, we have a guest today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm Victoria Ross, or Vicky. I'm the interim executive director of the Western New York Peace Center, and I'm a consultant for the Interfaith Peace Network. I'm a social worker, peace activist, and just very glad and grateful to be here with you all.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
So, I know that you have a broad education. Can you tell us a little bit about the specific degrees that you have and where you got them?
Well, it's funny. I will say I did, I would really say that you need to do what you need to do about your education. Everyone's always in a big hurry, like you have to do it immediately. And I would say, you may not have to. You really need to know and see what you'd like to learn. And also what we learn, there's so many different ways of learning. And it really is, and nothing is wasted. So everything that we learn. So for my background, I went to school. I thought I wanted to be a social worker. I went to school, got 1 semester's worth of credits, ended up going back to be a legal secretary, got an associate's degree and studied accounting. And then I went back again and finished my bachelor's in economics and went on to get a Master of Arts in Law and Diplomacy in International Economic Development. Now, after all of that, I did some different things and did a lot of studying comparative religion, and ended up going back to school yet again and get another master's, this one as a social worker.
Wow.
So now I'm a peace activist, a social worker, and I love what I'm doing. I'm still learning all the time, and learning in a college or university is very exciting. To be in a situation where learning is your job, but also we can all learn all the time, and we all need to be learning all the time.
I agree. I don't think college is for everyone, but I think learning is for everyone.
Twinkle that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you can never stop learning, even if even if you don't understand like all aspects of life, there's
Mhm.
something or someone you can always learn from. Like older people can learn from kids, kids always learn
Absolutely.
from other people.
Absolutely.
And I think people just forget that sometimes kids do have to teach us certain lessons in life.
Oh, believe you me, I totally agree with that. And I want to say, I I was just saying on the other program that one of the things I do is I'm doing a peace jam at the Erie County Youth Detention Facility, and I learned from the kids there too. You know, it's not all going one way, and I think we all need to, you know, e- there's so much to learn. Actually, I feel like part of our whole creation is it's just a big learning experience to even be in the creation, our lives. That's what
Yeah.
it's all about.
Do you ever feel like your brain, your gears in your brain just moving or growing? Like when you learn something, you feel your brain like growing.
Absolutely. And you know what, they really are, because actually there's synapses in our brain that they're just making connections now from a baby on. Now babies, for the first 6 months, they have an unbelievable amount of brain development going on, but our brains are changing and our connections are growing over the years, and the more we try to learn, the more there's that plasticity and and new connections being made, and we do learn. So it really helps us, and they really are changing. They're not really gears though, but they
I know
really
it's
are.
not really
No,
gears,
but they really
it
are.
seems like something is
But you're
moving.
right that things are moving. They are moving. They are connecting in these synapses.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly what they're doing. So that's
It's
perfect.
amazing.
Yeah.
What is that movie with Scarlett Johansson? Limitless? No.
Lucy?
Lucy.
Yes, I love that movie.
I was gonna
Have
say,
you ever seen it?
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay, so basically.
Oh, I did hear something about that.
So basically, it says that as humans, we only use 10% of our brain. So if we try to use the rest, then we can do more things with it. Which I believe, because it's
believe.
like, if we could use 100% of our brain, what can happen?
Absolutely. Well, actually, that reminds me of another much older movie called Defend Your Life. It's one of my favorite movies. Defend Your Life. It's oh God, what's her name? It's what's her Meryl Streep. Meryl
Okay.
Streep.
Oh, okay.
So it's a way you can find it. Meryl Streep was in it, but it's about somebody dying, and then they're in that sort of interim place. Defend Your Life. They're in that interim place where it's being decided where do you go on to? What happens to you? So this man who's passed away now, he, just like Meryl Streep and all the other people who are there, are sort of defending their life. They're in their own court situation where they're defending their life and their behaviors. And one of the big questions is, how much of your brain did you use? And also, how fear-driven were you? Like, were you totally fear-driven? Because fear is a big motivating factor, and it's a big limiting factor. It stops us all the time, or it really just cuts on our life, cuts it down, makes it smaller and more, So anyway, it's Defend Your Life. It's just like that, about really, having the courage and using our life and our brain, to the fullest.
Yeah.
I would say Lucy's a little different. They had cut her open, and they like stole her, cut her open, and then put like drugs inside her, and they were sending her to, I think it was China.
Oh,
But
my
then the
God.
drugs had like snapped open or something during a fight, and the
Yeah.
drugs like released into her body. So then like her body started taking them in, and she started like, not even like she was trying to, but her brain level percentage were growing. So as the movie goes on, it just goes like 10%. She's got like
Yeah.
10% regular, and then 20%, 30%, like 100%. She just like evaporates into the world.
And what was she, like a SD card or what? A flash drive? She
A
ended up
hard
being-
drive.
Okay, a hard drive.
So like a whole tower, I think. By the end of it, she was just like a computer.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the movie Limitless that you were talking about, though, that one, has Bradley Cooper in it, and he takes like this little like it's like a clear pill that allows him to use like the rest of his brain. So like it wasn't far off by saying limitless.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's a similar thing, I guess, to Lucy. They're all like very closely tied.
Yeah.
If you could use more of your brain, would you want to?
Yes, I would. I really
I don't know.
would. I don't think I would go to 100%.
Yeah.
'cause I don't want to be that, but I definitely would.
I mean, yeah, if we're at functioning like 10% right now, I'd like to know what like 50 was like.
Right. Because if she thought about moving the car out of traffic, if she was trying to get to work, like the cars would move.
Telekinesis kicks in.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I think, to me, it's not just about our brain, because there's a whole spirit too. So if we really feel, one of the things that this is another thing that's really worth watching. It's a documentary called What the Bleep, or something like that. And it's sort of about plasticity is the word that comes to mind again, of the universe in terms of the effectiveness of either prayer, our thoughts, our words, the ideas, and things that are intangible. So you would think that they don't really have an effect. But what we see is they do have an effect. So, for example, one of the things they talk about is there was an experiment done where a Japanese physician, I think, he had water that he put in different containers. And on some of the containers, it had words that were inspiring words like love, or peace, kindness, things like that. And then the other ones didn't, or maybe they had negative words. I can't remember. But anyway, so the ones that had the inspiring words, all of those, the water started to make these crystals.
Oh my God, I know what you're
Beautiful.
talking
Did you
about.
hear
That's
about
the
that?
next thing I was going to talk about.
Really? Isn't that wild?
It's
So-
a book. The thing I'm talking about
Yes.
the thing I'm thinking about is a book.
Right. Well, the thing I was thinking is a documentary, but it's the same information, and it's even the same experiment, I think. And then the other ones didn't have that. So we think, prayer, or your thoughts, or your intentions, or your hopes and dream, that they don't make a difference. No, they make a difference.
Yeah.
Your body is like, what, 90% water? Is that right?
I thought it was like 70.
I thought it was 75.
Yeah.
Okay, fine, 75.
But it's a lot. It's a lot, It's
So
a lot.
75% of water. Then you're looking at this study, I love you, water. Oh, you're just amazing, water. You're talking so positive to the water, and the water, it freezes completely differently than if I hate you and you're just dumb. You're dumb water.
Yeah, I don't understand how people say they don't like water. Like your body is filled with water.
Yeah. Well, some people just don't like the taste of nothing.
Oh, I don't know.
Maybe it's just me, but I don't think water is like tasteless. Like I taste like the minerals and stuff in there.
Yeah.
I'm specific. Aquafina somehow it always makes my throat sore for some reason every single time. I go for smart water.
That's my favorite.
Well, I go for pure water, pretty much, is what I like to have. And that means, we have to be careful, because there are things that are put in our water or not taken out of our water, or the pollution. I mean, fracking, or there's so many dangers, the pollution, the dumping, or, people's medication. I mean, there's all kinds of things that will really disturb our water, and the water is life.
Yeah.
But to me, it was more than, there's sort of two ways we can go with this conversation. So one is really about water, and I do have my water that's, it's filtered water, but it's take back the tap water, because I have a filter on my water at home, which I'm lucky enough to be able to do that. But the other thing is, like, back to that what the bleep, or that experiment, to me, it's not about water as much as it's about our lives and our world. And actually some of the work that I do in the Peace Center, or some of the work that we're all trying to do there's so many dangers and so many really scary issues, really difficult, and so many dire, just terribly desperate needs in the world. And so how do we try to make a difference and make things more positive? Well, some of it is what we do, and some of it is also what we are and how we think and how the words we use, and going back to that, the words, whether it was either talking to or at or even writing, because the experiment I saw, it was about, they had written the words and put it in front of the water, and it affected that water.
Wow.
You know, so it's about our lives, or like what's going on campus, what's going on in Buffalo. You know, are things getting better or worse?
I don't know, but I know I live off of Grant, so it's like sometimes you could just smell the pollution. That's pollution. The smell of it just bothers me so much, and I always find it to be in the poverty. Like, I never smell bad air when you go to the suburbs.
Because if they want to,
So that's one thing that really bothers me. Like, no matter where you live, you should have you should be able to smell good air.
Right.
because if isn't it when they want to bury something that's bad for you, they go to the poverty places and they bury it there?
Well, you know,
No.
let me say something about the Peace Center. So we just talked plenty, and for those of you who are at home who were listening, we just talked for an hour and a half about the Peace Center. So, but I can't help bringing up the Peace Center and bringing up that we work on all these issues, and we really do work. And I want to say, you know, we work collaborating with other groups. We, you know, the Clean Air Coalition, for example, is just working on what you're talking about air quality and how do you really we have to take an active role. I don't want to spend a lot of time, but if anyone's ever heard that joke about the man who, you know, there was a flood coming, and, you know, and so then he's there, and people said, "Oh, come on in the boat," and he's like, "No, the Lord will save me." And then, you know, so that the water's rising, and he gets up on the roof, and they're like, "No, the Lord will save me." And then finally a helicopter comes down, and he's like, "No, the Lord will save me." And then finally he dies. And so then the person says, "Lord, why didn't you save me?" And he said, "Well, I sent 3 boats and a helicopter." You know, so we have to do our part.
Yeah.
But we also have to be our part. We have to try, you know, you can't use, you know, the means determine the ends. You know, so if we use unjust means or, you know, unethical means to try and do something, it's not going to work very well. So I feel like at the Peace Center, so we try to use, you know, means that are in sync with what we're trying to do. So, you know, sort of, you know, like Gandhi said, of being the change that we want to see.
Yeah. That's deep.
Can you define what an activism is?
Activism. Well, back to, well, that's a good question, because it's really exactly hitched onto what I just said about that little joke, is we have to do our part. So we can say, you know, it's good to study things. It's good to do research. It's good to investigate a problem, know what the problem is and what are some of the causes and things like that. What's been tried before. So, but activism is really trying to affect those problems that are the thornier problems, that are social problems, economic problems, the problems of the many, I would say. That would be an activist, somebody who's trying to do something about that.
I think in the media, the biggest thing you see around activism is when they're lobbying.
Well, lobbying is one part of it. I'm going to say I've also done nonviolent direct action, and that could include flyering or, you know, having a march or a walk or something. But it can also include, well, I'll call it either civil disobedience or civil resistance. So civil disobedience is when you break a law because it's unjust. And civil resistance is actually when we're trying to get the government to uphold the law, which it does not always do, as we know, right? So that, for instance, when the Black Crosses, right? All those people who've been killed unjustly because of racism, because of racial profiling, because of just, you know, wrong training, wrong people, or whatever combination of things that is causing all the police brutality, and the police are, and the fight, flight, freeze in the police when they don't even, I don't think people are doing a wrong thing on purpose.
Right.
But it's just in this deeply ingrained racism in our society that is just ingrained from the very origins of our society when we took from the indigenous people. But what I was going to say, so the people, so the crosses, are such a good way of reminding us of what we need to do to change things. So we need to get the government to uphold their own laws.
Yeah.
Right? So there are laws against racial profiling. There are laws against, the police. We don't want to penalize the police for being police, but this knee-jerk reaction of shooting first and then always having impunity. They always have any excuse will do. No, that is not okay.
I don't agree with the train to kill.
Right.
Because it's like you'll never have good intentions going to work.
Exactly. And unfortunately, a lot of the police, they really are like, they want to give, we don't want veterans to have no jobs. Well, it's unfortunate because we've taught veterans how to kill. Then we put them on the police forces, and then we even give them military-grade equipment, and then we wonder why they're not just being the neighborly, cop on the beat, No. And then we tell them it's in the training that they have like 2.5 seconds to decide and figure out whether the person might kill them or not.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like that one video that kind of went viral about with the girl sitting in her
desk.
classroom. Yeah, and then the cop violently pulling her.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I was doing research for a class on Bill Maher, and he had commented on it, and he said that he feels like the problem with police brutality stems from like the children's parents, and like I kind of understood what he was saying with that, because like there's like the whole like responsibility, like when somebody of authority asks you to do something, do it. But then, like, and like undermining authority and stuff like that. But like, there's also the other side where it's like this police officer, he should know like the ethics of like his job.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
Is it really right to like become that like so physical with a minor?
No, it's crazy. Let the consequences fit the incident, right?
Yeah.
So if the incident is somebody is sitting there and they won't get up because they're told to get up and they don't get up, what do? You think you're justified to kill them or to just beat them? Or
right.
No.
But he dragged her out of her seat and like was like beating her.
I saw that, and that's what I'm talking about. So it totally didn't fit. And you know what? He would not have done that with a white kid.
No.
Right. And I wish people would understand that if the races were switched, how would it have been?
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that's the issue with the debate today. A lot of people want to admit to it, and that's the problem.
Right. Yeah. It is huge. And actually, the Peace Center, we're having our annual dinner this Saturday. So we're having Margaret Huang. She's the number 2 person at Amnesty International USA. So Amnesty, if you've heard of Amnesty, it's really a human rights organization. It's national and international. It's won Nobel Peace Prize for their work just because they're very good on human rights. They've helped get political prisoners out in other countries, and they're really, really undisputed experts on human rights issues. So Margaret Huang was in Baltimore when that was going on. She was in Ferguson before that, talking about the human rights violations by the police when they're, tear gassing massive numbers of people. what's accepted human rights. I mean, we're always talking human rights, in the UN or things like that about other countries and their human rights records. But we don't look at our human rights record.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why we haven't accepted the International Criminal Court, because we're afraid of being brought up. So I want to bring the full circle back to civil resistance is when you take a stand, let's say, it could include refusing to move or whatever it is, to try to get the government to uphold the law. What is actually the law when the government is breaking the law? Whether it's by our treaties, which are part of the law of the land, the supremacy clause in the Constitution, that's Article 6, Paragraph 2, says that all of our international treaties are the law of the land. So we actually outlawed war in 1927. Check it out with the Kellogg's-Briand Pact. And so it's all been illegal ever since. But we just ignore the laws that we don't want to pay attention to, or holding people accountable, when it's inconvenient or embarrassing or whatever it is. Because really, white supremacy has been so unquestioned for so long. It dates back to the doctrine of discovery, which said, preview that, I think that the Peace Center is going to be co-hosting with the Indigenous Women's Initiative, a showing of a film on the doctrine of discovery. And the doctrine of discovery was the papal bull, and I do mean bull, but they actually called them papal bulls. So the papal bull, that was the edict that said that the explorers could go out and claim any lands for their, country if they were a Christian country, and if they were a white country is basically what it ended up meaning. They could claim it from the pagans or the heathens or the people who were there because of, the rightness of the because they're doing it for our Lord, Well, because no, it's just a plain racist thing to say that our religion is the only true religion, and that our race should just go and take, So the very birth of our nation was from racism and white supremacy.
I think it all starts with the school system, because we're always taught in high school the same people.
Right.
Well, especially when it comes to Black History Month. Martin Luther King, Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman. But what about the people or the ones that made like major impacts on society today? Street lights. A lot of things, actually. Even from the sculptures and the architecture. It's crazy that we're not taught the truth.
No, we're not. That there's such an imbalance in the way, we don't need Black History Month. We need the people's history of the United States, which is actually Howard Zinn wrote a fantastic book called The People's History of the United States. And it really starts right out with the birth of our nation, means Columbus and whatever, there were a couple of forays before that, and the papal bull of the doctrine of discovery and all the egregious human rights violence, just plain blatant genocide and murder that we engaged in, that means the United States or at first it was the Italians or just everybody who came, the Spanish, anyway, just all the different groups that came over from the different European countries. So that Doctrine of Discovery film will be shown. Now, I can't tell you where it's going to be, but I do believe that it may very well be on December 10th, which is Indigenous Peoples Day. And I just love the Indigenous Women's Initiatives. We collaborate with them all the time. And, and I think that, again, that's a racial justice issue. Is what happened to the indigenous people. The other thing I'll say is, because we're talking about women's empowerment, is that I did a series at the public library at the Central Central Public Library one year during International Women's Month, where we did Women's Ways, Peace Ways. And so we had different women come in from the community to talk about their work and the peaceful, and I think that women do, a lot of times, we're the ones who are ready to collaborate and cooperate, and not always. Sometimes we think we want to be like the men, but I think that, we come by it more naturally. If when the fight, flight, freeze goes on, we don't channel it right into fight so quickly, because they have nature and nurture both going on to like encourage them to, and sometimes even women encouraging men to fight or things like that, where really, we know how much cooperation is needed, and our general way would be more to work with, power with instead of power over.
Yeah.
Now, I know you got, you have one of your degrees from, Jack was telling me, Switzerland?
Mm-hmm.
Did you study the entire degree there?
No, that was a joint degree from Fletcher, which is part of Tufts, that was outside of Boston. And then the second year was at the Graduate Institute of International Studies, or S01E05, Institut Universitaire d'Études Internationales. So I did get to speak some French, which was fun. And certainly traveling is always such a big talk. We were talking about learning.
Yeah.
Traveling is a big learning experience, always.
I need to get away.
Yeah. Well,
It
we
is.
all should, or at least also one of the things is we can learn, but we can also learn from other people. Like we have so many people from so many different cultures in Buffalo right now, So that's another big way of learning. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't want you to get a chance to go away and do some traveling or study abroad, or, just find our own different times and ways of getting overseas or getting into a different country, or even in this country.
I was just gonna say, like, I traveled. I drove across country to California this summer, and just like I got to see like like a little bit of everything, just like because you're going from like the East Coast to the West Coast, and like it was so interesting, and like I don't know, it was just there's so many different people to see.
Well, actually, when I was in Nairobi, I worked actually for the U.S. State Department in Nairobi for a while, Kenya. And my sister at the time had been living in Chapel Hill, and then she moved to really way in the boonies in North Carolina. And we decided that she was in more culture shock than I was.
Yeah.
Somehow, just because I was in a big city, and it was still a city, and it was still,
Right.
So anyway.
Yeah. No, I agree.
How long did that take you?
It's approximately like 38 hours, but we did it over 3 days. We didn't want to drive straight through the night or anything like that.
Right. Well, good thing you took your time at least a little bit.
Yeah.
It's nice. Boy, time is so important. It's nice to, we need to, that's one of the disciplines I think we need in our time. I know I need it, is to try and take our time, because we try to do so many things.
At once, yeah.
Yeah, too many at once.
Yeah. I've also been to the Dominican Republic.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and that was probably the first time I ever really experienced culture shock.
Mm-hmm.
Because while I was staying at a resort, I was going to places that weren't they have garbage dump villages where people literally just grab plastic pieces and make shelter, and they don't have shoes or anything, and that's why diseases spread so fast there and everything. And it was just crazy to see that that's actually real, because I mean personally I would see the commercial with the sad song behind it, and the kids that are starving, and they're donate for 25 cents, and you're yeah, this is just a gimmick. And then you actually go and see it, and you're this is real, this is not fake.
Well, that's intense. Yeah, I also got that in Kenya, and or just if you travel to Mexico or any traveling, we see, and the further away maybe. Well, no, not I shouldn't say that. No, but in other countries we can see that even though there is really extreme poverty in some places in the United States, really I've heard stories that are really heart-wrenching from right here in Buffalo that are just terrible. But that also there is poverty on a really bad level outside of this country, which is another thing about how we need to shift things and change them, where it's not 5% of us being 5% of the world's population using 20 or 30 or 50%. I think it's 50. I'm not sure because it's changed over time, but the percentage of the world's resources that we're using, we have to just more equity, and so, just not, there's just about, fairness and justice and sharing and all the things that we say we believe in, they're certainly in all of the faiths.
Yeah.
And they're in, what we sort of, our heart tells us what's the right thing to do.
I was born in Port-au-Prince, Haiti.
Oh, really?
So it's like,
wow.
I just know that the parts that the media show isn't the only part that's there.
Right.
There's good parts over there.
Right, of course.
The only part that
That's
really
the other
show
piece.
is Port-au-Prince. So I think there needs to be more knowledge on every country, being that every country isn't like all the way third world.
Right.
There's
or
some
even
good parts.
there's, we oversimplify. We try to oversimplify things sometimes, and we don't look at just, there's so many different aspects. So as soon as you say something, as soon as we say something, could be, well, yes, and on the other hand, that's why I love something they call the Tao of conversation, right? So the Tao of conversation is, it's not like trying to figure out who's right and have a big debate. It's like, well, you add your thought and your information, and then somebody else will, just fill out, and maybe there's another, sort of a paradoxical thing that is still true.
Yeah.
So we can't oversimplify it. We just need to really, look at all the different aspects.
Right. How long did it take you to learn French?
Oh, French. Well, I studied it in school. Off and on in school, I mostly did study it. And I had taken maybe a class in college. And then I was in Canada, and I found my French was not very useful because it was all, so the only time I really learned was because when I was in Switzerland, I made sure I spoke French because my studies were mostly in English because it was economics. The economics section was all taught in English. But so I took a political economy course in French, and I made friends with people who were, Swiss, just because I wanted to really learn French, and that was how I learned it. And I keep it up now, parce que je voudrais parler en français.
Okay,
So
you can speak it real well.
Yeah,
now.
I can still speak it.
Okay.
Yeah. And my accent is really better than my vocabulary. That's the other little trick.
I used to speak Creole. I want to learn it again.
Uh-huh.
So it's like, how much time do I need to spend?
But see, if you
to
knew it
practice.
before, it will come back quicker.
And that's what I think.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure.
Because I think when I came to America, that's when I slowly started losing it, because me and my dad, he didn't continue to speak it to me. And then once I got in the school system, that's when it really started to go
So how
away.
old were you when you came?
Like 2.
Uh-huh, right.
So by the time kindergarten came, I think I still understood some things he was saying, but as far as learning new words, I don't think it didn't continue.
But we were talking about the plasticity of the brain.
That's why
and
I
the
think
early
it's gonna come
early
back.
years are so
Important,
potent.
yeah.
Oh, and even before you're born is so potent. It's like really big on the brain development.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you would pick it back up way
Okay.
fast.
I think so. I really
yeah.
believe it, though.
Oh, sure. Definitely. You need to just go there for a little. There's lots of trips. In fact, I go to Holy Trinity Lutheran, and that is one place, and a couple other places where there are trips back over there, different trips, and people want to go because it's a learning, it's sort of like we have a Peace Jam program where there's a service learning project, and I feel like we were just talking about learning. It's always a service learning project, right? Because we'll learn, I know, I don't care if you're running a group or you're running a project, you'll be learning. You'll be learning. So when there's a trip, or if it's a service trip or if it's just a regular trip, people learn so much.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I bet you if you went there pretty quick, you would be picking right back up,
Yeah.
just like that.
What was the best way for you? Like someone speaking to you or learning from audio?
The best way for me is actually having a conversation.
Oh, okay.
But I do, what else I do? Actually, because I speak Spanish too,
Mm-hmm.
somewhat. So, so what I do is I like the Democracy Now! That hopefully you all will be getting before too very long. Democracy Now!, which is a fantastic news program.
Mm-hmm.
They have their daily digest of the real news, the stuff that you don't hear on the regular mainstream, infotisements for the government powers that be, the stenography, I should call it. But Democracy Now!, you hear the real news. So anyway, their daily digest, I get it in English and I get it in Spanish. So I'll read it in Spanish and see if I got a clue of what was going on or what. Read it in English and say, oh, that's what that meant, So like that's one way I practice. But there's nothing like just leap into a conversation with people.
Okay.
Or even YouTube nowadays.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, YouTube is a professor for anything.
Right. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well, actually, the Peace Center, we have a YouTube channel.
What kind of stuff is on it?
Well, all different stuff. Let me think. There's something on the speaker who's coming to the annual dinner on Saturday, Margaret Huang. I think there might be some videos of the walk that we just did undrone upstate that was 165 miles from Hancock National Guard Air Base outside of Syracuse to Niagara Falls Air Base in Niagara Falls.
Yeah, during Vantage Point, we actually talked to, I can't remember his name.
What was the name
He's-
of it?
Russell Brown?
No, he came in
Charlie?
with you.
With Charlie
Yes,
Bowman.
yes,
Right,
yes.
Charlie
I get
Bowman.
him mixed up with Charlie Bowman and Charlie Tarr.
Yeah, Charlie Bowman was, he did a lot of walking and he did a lot of driving as well.
What's the YouTube name again?
But, well, if you go to WNY Peace Center, you should find
Okay.
a lot of YouTube. We have that's our Facebook page, which
Yeah.
you're welcome to come to our Facebook page too. And one of the other YouTube, while we're singing the praises of YouTube, I love to go to the YouTube of Our Journey to Smile. Our Journey to Smile is actually a Peace Jam group that is a Peace Jam group because of our Peace Jam Buffalo group that is a group of young people from Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about their efforts as peace activists in Afghanistan. And they work very hard. Their videos are wonderful, just really, really inspiring, touching. They're just a terrific group. So thank you for pulling it up. So we do have, when Cornell West came to...
I wanted to go when he came here. Did he talk about the prison?
He wasn't here. He was in Syracuse. He came. I'm involved. The Peace Center, the Western New York Peace Center, is part of the Upstate Coalition to Ground the Drones and End the Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And so he came for that group.
Okay.
He came up to Syracuse. And a lot of people did come from Buffalo. So a lot of us were there. I was lucky enough to be there. And what a wonderful man he is. Oh, what a thrill. Oh, what a thrill it was.
I thought he did come here though. To
You know,
talk about how packed the prisons were and
if he came to Buffalo, no, he came to Albany. That was the other one.
Okay.
There was a trip to Albany and he was going to speak, and it was right around that time.
Okay.
And he did speak in Albany. He hasn't been to Buffalo since 2007, I could say,
okay.
because that's when I moved here, and I would have known it if he was here. But but we're still hopeful. And Cornell, Dr. West, God bless you if you're listening. We want you in Buffalo. I'll try calling your office some more. come for our next annual dinner. We're hoping. That's what that is what we're hoping. One thing we're hoping.
That'd be nice.
I did want to ask you a little. Do you
Sure.
currently still work with youth in Erie County?
Yes.
And what is that like?
Well, first of all, are you talking in the detention facility?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or do you
Yeah, I
do,
am.
you do something else too?
I am. Well, first of all, I do work with children and youth in different settings and ways. And in fact, right now I have a student intern working with me from UB School of Social Work. She's a second-year student. We had another intern who was working with us when we did our Camp Peace Prince over the summer, which is for 8 to 13-year-olds, 2-week camp. And we also have youth who come there, youth assistants, older kids who help out with them. But we have a new Peace Jam group starting up at the Delvin Grider Center in the new year. I also go to MST, Mass Science Technology, there on Delvin near Grider. And also I'm going and doing Peace Jam in the youth detention facility. And I want to say, I love doing it. I love doing it. I feel like, first of all, when somebody ends up incarcerated, there's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of huge problems with that system. Although I will also say there are people who are trying very hard in that system to change it. Because we were talking a lot, especially about racial issues. Well, there's one big, huge one when we look at the prison population, as skewed as it is. Same with the youth detention facility, because it's just about how does the law handle different people. And it handles different people differently.
Yeah.
So there is a white supremacy, there's white supremacy that is so deeply ingrained in people and in our systems, in our institutions, that and in the sort of the situation at hand. So like a lot of the economic things end up being, they're not only racial, but they're also racial, right? So there's just layers to the problem. So when I am working with people in the youth detention facility, I want to say everywhere I go, I try to appreciate and respect and learn from people. And I also have my own message or ideas that I would like to share. And I think there's a way of doing that. And I try to do it in a peaceful, good way that will result in everybody learning and everybody being respected. And that's what I do.
Yeah.
That's what I do. And it doesn't matter if the people are children, youth, or senior, or the higher mucky mucks, or whoever they are. I mean, it doesn't matter who it is. There's a way of having a conversation, that can make it a good thing, or it could be a bad thing. So, I mean, and it doesn't mean being nice all the time either. I don't mean that. Actually, I've seen it where sometimes if somebody just, you're telling it like you see it. We need to balance truth and kindness.
Yeah. I think as we get older, we forget like what we were taught when we were younger, like treat others how you would want to be treated, caring and sharing.
Right.
Don't hit anyone unless they hit you. Well, you hit someone back if they hit you, but it's just the small things like that I think we forget.
Right.
Don't say anything if you don't have anything nice to say.
Right.
Just the things like that.
Right. Although, that's what I was saying, it can be true. I actually saw it, and I was just thinking about this the other day, where I saw, it was a training, and somebody got very mad at the way the training was going, and they felt that it was not really teaching them what they had signed up to be taught and everything, and really had what I would call it a conniption, like really just I'm really, really mad, right? Really mad that was not, that it was not what needed to be done, or what was supposedly was going to be done at this training. And after that, when they heard her, and everyone, and we all heard her, and you know what? Honestly, people were more relaxed and real afterwards, because that veneer had been broken of having to be all nicey nice. So it's a balance. It's really a balance.
Yeah.
So there's a time, I mean, not to say be nasty, be rude,
Just be honest.
but be honest, but be, there's a balance between the truth and kindness. Or and also what's needed in different situations is different, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like a lot of times with those kinds of issues, like if somebody goes like is like talking about like something controversial like that, like a lot of times I've seen it where like the person discussing the issue becomes like aggressive, despite the fact that like the person they're talking to isn't showing any sort of signs of like like attitude or like dismissive or anything like that should be like offensive to cause the aggression. They just like they get so passionate about the issue that like anything other than agreement means like a fight, and like that's not how you show someone like what you're saying, like because like you could be talking about like I don't know, say like white privilege and like some if you're talking to another, like, say, white person, like white person to white person, maybe one feels very passionately and the other one, like, is just like, oh, that doesn't exist. Well, I mean, like, there's proof that it exists.
Right.
And if you're explaining that, you could either throw it in their face and yell at them, or you could, like, show them softly. It's like, it's all on how you present it. Because I feel like a lot of times people who are more aggressive don't get the results that they want.
Yeah. It's okay to disagree.
Yeah, exactly. But
Just be respectful.
Exactly.
Exactly. That is exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I want to thank you for coming on. We are at the end of our hour today.
Oh, well, it's thrilling. It is so exciting for me to be with you all. And I do hope you can come to the Peace Center annual dinner. If you can, go to our wnypeace.org. You could see about getting tickets, or you can just call the office 332-3904. But either way, also, I just look forward to talking with you more and working together more.
Yeah, I
because-
like today's conversation.
Me too. Me too.
Can you say the phone number again, a little slower?
Oh, 332-3904.
I was going to say it, I'm like, I'm missing a number.
332-3904. So thank you so much.
You're
Call
welcome.
me anytime. I'll jump at the chance to talk with you all.
Okay.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. for
Bye,
your
everybody.
thoughts. Great.
Human sacrifices were once made on the hills above this river. Bodies burned, water seeped through the wood and ashes to create lye. This is lye, the crucial ingredient. Once it mixed with the melted fat of the bodies, a thick white soapy discharge crept into the river. Answer your hand, please.
What is this?
This is
91.3 FM WBNY.
congratulations. You're one step closer to hitting bottom.